was told when I was in ministry school that the one with the experience is not at the mercy with the one with the argument or the opinion. Remember that. We definitely have the experience and it's a truth, from the source of truth. We are definitely not at the mercy of the one with the argument. And I also want to let you know that Judas Iscariot, he was the one that handed over Jesus Christ himself. And Jesus had said to him, referred to him as a devil, go do what you have to do and do it quickly. But we did not see him spitting up pea soup. And that would be the most opportune time right there while they were eating dinner when Jesus himself gave him the bread to let the other disciple know who it was that would be betraying him. So no, the enemy will not present himself so obviously. The point is to conceal so that they can manipulate, they can intimidate, they can control, and they can dominate. And they can steal, kill, and destroy. So please share this video. Share this video to who you're pressed to share it with. Because in these last days, we are here. We believers are a light in this world so that we can share, we can speak the truth, we can shed the light on the deception that the enemy tried to conceal to those of us who God has laid his life down to reveal the truth. And he will do that. Part 2 of my response to HG, I'm going to correct that, that's HG as in George, Tudor's video called What is Narcissism? So we've already went over him stating that a narcissist is not an alien life form, which that is absolutely true. He did also mention that even though many of their behaviors engage in some seemingly alien-like behaviors, we went over those behaviors. I gave you some definitions from what I looked up as definitely inhumane. We also went over narcissism has nothing to do with the Jezebel spirit. And so I did bring out in 1st and 2nd Kings where Jezebel was not called a narcissist. I don't know her personally, but I can definitely see the correlation between the narcissist and the Jezebel spirit. And the reason why, or why it's said the Jezebel spirit, because as we've learned that Jezebel was the daughter of Ithabal. He was a king who she and he worshipped the god Baal. Okay. Now later on in the Bible, it does explain that Jezebel was told of having a spirit of witchcraft, wickedness, and fornication. All right. And so that is what you will see. And that's 1 Kings 21:25, 2 Kings 9:22. So with that being said, the spirit of witchcraft is the spirit that, worked in Jezebel. So that is why it's being said the Jezebel spirit. Now, the spirit of witchcraft is a spirit that manipulates, it intimidates, to dominate, and to control. Okay, and we see in several instances here in the Bible where Jezebel did just that. She conducted herself in just that manner. If you go ahead and read that 1st and 2nd Kings, of the things that Jezebel did, in which the Lord himself had to come and dispose of her. Okay, so with that being said, we are going to see in this video, hopefully there's not a part 3, but I think there might be. I will be showing you where it's comparable, the spirit, the witchcraft spirit, and what he explains is exactly what it is, even though he's saying they're not, narcissists are not demonically possessed. And again, I say that they could be. It is that when you're dealing with the occult, that is one of the things that is under a problem. It's very immediate. That is the quickest way to get wrapped up in possession. All right. But going here now, remember, because Saul, King Saul, he got wrapped up in that divination, and he went and went to seek a fortune teller I don't want to get off of, let me get focused here. So, like I was saying, now the next one is H.G. Tudor mentioned that narcissism has nothing to do with the lack of self-esteem either. And he said, we have an excellent conceit of ourselves. So I wanted to bring this out here, and I want to bring it out in this way. He also mentioned after that, he said, this will manifest as far as the conceit or the excellent conceit of themselves. He said this will manifest in different ways depending on the type of narcissist you are involved in. Okay, so that's true. And he used the word, this will manifest in different ways. So that's also some terminology that we know that something is influencing us. It is either one or two things. It's either good or bad. Okay. But we'll be going into that. So I want to break this down when he says that we have an excellent conceit of ourselves. I think that is 1/3 true. And the reason why 1/3 part true, and the reason why I say that that's 1/3 part true, because that relates to the demonic spirit that presents himself falsely of high self-esteem, high esteem. As a child, okay, which he also will mention that how the narcissist is created is during childhood, where there is a lack of control environment. It has something to do with environment, which we know that this definitely has something to do with trauma and abuse as a young child, and they develop into having to cope with this type of environment by making defense mechanisms. He will be speaking about this defense mechanisms, but this again is not something new to us, but that is one of the words that clearly defines what is going on. All right. So as a child, as they're trying to cope and they're trying to survive in an environment that is unspeakably and to many of us unmeasurable to live with, the demon, okay, will take the opportunity to latch on to a child that's in a very weakened state. And with that being said, these mechanisms, these defense mechanisms will play out, and then it's a suspended, arrested development. Okay, as a child, they're suspended in that place in their lives, and that's the physical child. Okay. That's the child themselves. So they're suspended there. So as they grow up, they've learned certain ways to cope with what they're dealing with, and they're not the greatest ways. They're again defense mechanisms, and we will be going into those because they are not good, and so not good that again H.G. Tudor will be explaining and describing what the narcissist does to do in order to cope with life. I'm just going to read you something that I have. Let's see. Okay, so I wrote this down because I didn't want to forget my thought. So at the point of arrested development, the state of a child, when the child most likely became susceptible to a darker influence, this was at a weak state in the child's life, which gave access to this wicked spirit. And again, which the spirit latched on and took I would say this here. Of course, a child as they're trying to learn how to live, how to handle situations. So it is natural for us all. We all learn it in different parts of our lives, even as adults, how we can handle certain things, and we depend on adults to be able to teach us the right ways that help us healthfully. Okay. There's two parts to that, because just us as human and psychologically, that yes, we do know that there's, a way and there's a better way. There's not so much of a healthy way, and there's an unfortunately an unhealthy way. Now, if when we're taking those, when a child begins to develop coping mechanisms to deal with a situation such as, becoming more seared in their heart, hard in their heart, not feeling or somehow disengaging their emotions in certain situations so they won't feel hurt anymore. And it's not necessarily demonic. It becomes demonic. So the enemy will take that opportunity to ingrain, by heightening other events in their lives to fortify that particular self-defense mechanism. Okay. And we'll go into that. All right. So as the child is suspended in that time, the child itself is a lack of self-esteem. So that's when we say that when people say that the narcissist has a lack of self-esteem, that's the one of the third, that the child is left in that suspended state with a lack of self-esteem. But H.G. Tudor says that the narcissist itself does not, is highly esteemed. And that's right, because he's not speaking as the child. He's speaking as that spirit. Okay. So when he says like the narcissist has the, highly self-esteemed. Okay. That's true. You know what I'm saying? So, but she or he has a lack of self-worth, has a lack of self-esteem. So that's 1/3. Okay. The other third was the spirit, the demonic spirit that's presenting itself as though, he's highly esteemed. Okay. So that spirit is falsely presenting itself. So that's another third, the falsification of what's being presented, because it's that spirit of witchcraft that is going to manipulate to make you appear like you are something that you don't. So that spirit is trying to protect or to falsely protect the child, but it's really not protecting the child. And then you have the third, which is the real spirit, the real entity that is the demonic entity that is truly defeated. And so he's operating, or I'm sorry, whatever the spirit is, it's operating from a place of defeat, because that spirit is inferior to God. And I'm going to explain it this way. In Revelations 12, or read this to you, 7 through 12, it says, "And war broke out in heaven. Michael and his angels fought with the dragon, and the dragon and his angels fought, but they did not prevail, nor was a place found for them in heaven any longer. So the great dragon was cast out, the serpent of old, called the devil and Satan, who deceived the whole world. He was cast to the earth, and his angels were cast out with him." Okay, so now if you're cast out into the earth and the angels were cast out as well, all right, and if they were in a position of greater esteem, then they would not need a host to be able to operate out of their desires. Okay, so they are inferior, to mankind. Although, what happened in the garden in Eden, we kind of relinquished that authority. However, through Christ, we're able to gain that back. So they do need a bodily host to operate and to function out their desires. So that's in a place of inferior. They're inferior to mankind. Now the Lord says that we fight from a place of victory. So remember that. All right. So the actual demonic spirit is not highly esteemed, but that's 1 of 3, but it presents itself as highly esteemed, which is lying to manipulate in order to control, it's a defense mechanism trying to protect the child. Okay. That the child got, what the child developed as in order to cope with their, harsh situations in the environment. All right. And then you have the child who is actually, have a low self-esteem. Okay. The actual child that is suspended that's in there. Okay. So with that being said, I hope you understand that it is partially true. And I hope I shed some light on the actual nature of nature of demons, and where they're operating from. So there are different, he mentioned that there are different types of narcissists. He calls them schools and sub schools, like the lesser, middle, greater, ultra. I wonder if I went through this all already with you. And then there are different levels, which each of those levels as well. They're on a spectrum. And that's also like the demons, and I was really, and this is what I was really interested in. Hopefully this is something that I was really, scratching my head on, because he does identify that there is a spectrum. The narcissists are not all the same. There's lesser, mid range, and greater, and he calls himself ultra, so that's the same thing with demons. So there's different grades, there's different levels, there's different there's hierarchy. It's a hierarchy. So that is the same with the narcissist. And it's interesting because he's describing exactly what this being, it could be possessed or being demonically influenced, how it operates. He also mentioned he didn't like the covert and overt, but I think that covert and overt is a good way to be able to describe what type of conduct or how you're being treated. I think it's definitely a good way to describe what you're experiencing if you're speaking to someone who's experienced. We are aware that this is a spectrum. So he said there are many narcissists, different types of narcissists. We are aware of that. We know it's not just covert and overt, but we know that that is a behavior that is very, that it kind of identifies what your treatment, how you're being handled, one of the primary ways that you're being handled, so others can understand it. All right. He mentioned that it's not demonically possessed, might behave like a demon, but we are not possessed. So that is false. I say this, the saying, it says you can catch more flies with honey than with vinegar. Well, that's true. You can catch more flies with honey than with vinegar. You can be demonized and or demonically influenced. Definitely. And I say that because H.G. Tudor explains clearly that they manipulate, and intimidate to dominate and control. What he calls a prime aim. I think I said a primary aim. I said that was my word, but I'm sorry. He actually used that to gain fuel, to gain control, to gain character traits, and then also for residual benefits. All right. So in order to get fuel and have residual benefits and to gain control, you would have to conduct yourself in a certain manner, which they are developed differently. Yes, we are aware of that. As far as human, you come as a child, and then you have these different events and traumatic situations, abuse that develops you in a completely different way. All right. We are in the minority, but a sizable one. He also says, if I'm literally demon possessed, why am I not shape shifting? Why am I not suddenly appearing in the middle of the night? That is interesting that he says that. I'm going to ask this question. If you are a narcissist, then why are you love bombing me? But I don't know that that's what it's called. If you're a narcissist, why can't you be that from the jump scare? Why can't you present yourself to me unveiled at the very beginning? Why? Because you're trying to gain fuel. Yeah. You need to manipulate, and you need in order to control and to dominate. All right. In order to get the character traits and to, like you said, it was just one of the primary aims and the residual effects, the residual benefits. So demons, they're not going to just show up to you unveiled, because they're not going to get the residual benefits that you say is one of the chief primary aims. They're not going to be able to gain and immediately and manipulate you. They're not going to be able to gain the fuel. So if they just up and say, hey, this is who I am, you're going to run the next way. You're going to run the complete opposite way. It's easier. It's better to get bees with honey than with vinegar. So come on, we're talking about the same thing here. You're explaining the same thing already of who Narcissist is the same way the demonic spirits are functioning, just like you're explaining. All right. So I'll read, I wrote this here. It says, just like you explained, there is a spectrum to NPD, which is Narcissist Personality Disorder. Is similar with demons. They are lesser and greater. And as you mentioned, HG mentioned the demon that attaches itself to you, it will manifest in different kinds of ways. All right. So the demon also manifests in different kinds of ways as well. Okay. So he said, my head doesn't turn in 360 degree. I don't vomit up pea soup. Well, Jeffrey Dahmer, it wasn't recorded that we've ever heard that he vomit up pea soup or turn his head around or shape shift. And there is shape shifting, there's shape shifting, like you had mentioned, character traits to gain those character traits, which is mirroring. So that is a shape shift internally with a personality, and not with different falsely presented personality, or how you want to falsely present yourself. You know what I'm saying? So that's a shape shift, not physically, but not to say that demonic possession of the body and making physical changes does not happen. I'm not saying that it doesn't happen, because it do. But what I'm saying is narcissists have a different type of way of dealing with it, because they're trying to present themselves a certain way in order to gain fuel and to disguise themselves and conceal themselves. Coming in at a very young age, if you do that, you would be able to control the adult. Once they come an adult, if you're able to get them at a young age, then controlling them as an adult is way much easier. They're like a self-oiled machine by then. You don't have to put much work in it. It's just like second nature to them, So that's why the demonic comes in at a young age, which HG Tudor mentioned that at a young age is how it's created. A narcissist is created due to the environment at a young age, the lack of control in the environment at a young age. So by the time you're 30, 40, 50, it doesn't take much for you to oppress, repress, or to gain control of a spirit, of a soul that has been worked on for 30, 20, 40 years as a child. There's not much to do. The only thing when it becomes starting to get heavy and hard is when the Spirit of God starts penetrating. Then you got a problem. Okay. But it doesn't take much if you're starting from such a young age. All right. So by the time that you're 30 and 40 or 50, I don't know how old he is. No, your head's not going to, you don't need to do all of that. You need to gain fuel, and that is, you are dependent on others to do that. So how do you do that? Is to manipulate, okay? And do a lot of other different things to be able to gain them under control in order to dominate, to keep your residual benefits, to gain your traits, to get control, okay? So like I was saying, Jeffrey Dahmer, there's no report that, and if it was, they kept that concealed, I haven't heard of any report that he's spitting up pea soup, but he killed many, many people, that. Jim Jones, he wasn't reported as shape-shifting and going up under the door, but he had manipulated and he controlled and he killed many, many people. We also have Belle Gunness. She lived from 1859 to 1908. She was a serial killer here in the U.S. It is spoken that she's killed over 40 people, including 2 of her husbands, who in order to gain the was it insurance, their possessions, and also insurance money. Yeah. So, but there's no record that I see here of that shape-shifting or pea soup, but they're doing things and they're killing people, and at the millions, like Hitler. If he have shape-shift through a pea soup, act demonically, physically, they can steal that very well with us, with the public, because he's killed millions of people. And then there's Jezebel. Okay, so just to name a few, that you don't have to be this, the night, I believe it was in 1973 that the movie Exorcist came out. So I guess that's your reference as far as demonic possession, or that's his. I'm not talking to HG, but I'm talking to you guys to share this with you. So I do apologize about that. But that reference is from a 1973 movie called Exorcist. I mean, that's not the best reliable source to understand the spirituality, if you want to get the whole picture. All right, so I'm going to read this, what I wrote. It's a note here, so I don't miss anything. But it says possession or being demonized can take different forms. And in many situations, the demon will use the functions of the human to intimidate, humiliate, degrade, and this oftentimes is sufficient. Again, demons do not want to blow their cover because they need to remain concealed to prevent being expelled from their host, and then also to gain territory with human souls and to kill, steal and destroy. So that's their purpose. Demons will manifest often times demonstrating their supernatural ability under the power of God, because the Spirit of God calls forth and out the demon. With the power of God, it can be hard to hide behind the human body. It can be very much so exposed. Therefore, if the narcissist is demonized, or at the very least influenced by demons, the host, which is the human body, the person, all right, is concealing the foreign entity, alien entity, demon. Oh, he also mentioned that there was he was listening to a video that a woman on YouTube was making. And I guess this video either mentioned that narcissists have no good in them. And he mentioned, I do good things. However, so being that you manipulate, being that narcissists manipulate, to gain fuel and gain character or gain residual benefits, then what does that good mean? I would need some elaboration on that, because good could definitely be just deception. And it sounds like you mentioned, that everything is for the purpose of the narcissist anyway. So is that truly good? So that's a whole nother topic. He mentioned narcissism has nothing to do with satanic battle. Narcissism has nothing to do with demonic possession. That is false. And this is definitely being proven based on H.G. Tudor's own words as well. So H.G. Tudor also mentioned the definition of narcissism according to the DSM-5, American Psychiatric Association. It is grandiose self-importance, same thing, fantasies of success, feel he or she is special, excessive excessive admiration, sense of entitlement, exploitative, lack of empathy, arrogant, and haughty behavior, envious of others. And five out of 9 of them present can be diagnosed as a narcissist from a clinical counselor or specialist. Okay, so he mentions that those 9 descriptions does not convey what narcissism is, only the behavior. I believe that to be true. A narcissism is a self-defense mechanism. I believe that to be true. Designed to acquire prime aims. Now, this is where he's going to start explaining exactly the description of what the spirit of witchcraft is that narcissists carry, operate through. So he says that the prime aims control and fuel. Fuel is emotional output, also known as narcissistic supply. He mentions fuel seeks out fulfillment of the prime aims of control, character traits, residual benefits, and fuel. Character traits. Okay, that's one of the other prime aims. Want as our own, they want as their own, and to pass it off as their own. Okay, and the residual benefits are all things that benefits us. Now, this is what he's saying the description is. Okay, so I kind of wrote it here. I know. So I have so you have the fuel, control, character traits, and residual benefits, he stated. So the fuel I put is like energy, okay? And I also put the fuel for the narcissist gauges the level of influence and the effect that the narcissist has on others. So that's what I described it as fuel. It's like energy. It's what gives them the energy, and the fuel, the different kinds of fuels from other people can gauge where they are, how greatly or not so greatly that they're influenced by the narcissist. Control is binding. I put that the control is binding, like witchcraft. The character traits used to deceive. Okay, so that's deception, and that's a tool there. Okay, so character traits, that shape shifting. Okay, but it's an internal, shape shifting with the personality or character traits. Okay, residual benefits, and that's the self pleasure at the expense of others. So these are my little definitions here where I just described what those are. I think he uses energy for fuel as well. I think that he mentions that there. But using the character, extracting these character traits, okay, he uses that as a tool to gain residual benefits, okay, and also to gain fuel as well. And all of that is to ultimately control. And so he does mention that the ultimate purpose for narcissism is to control. So the self-defense mechanisms that operate to achieve the prime aims, this is what he's saying. This is around 13 minutes in his videos. He said those will manifest in the listed symptoms the DSM-5 gives in order to achieve the 4 prime aims. So I'm going to say that again. And I'm going to go over self-defense mechanisms. But he says self-defense mechanisms that operate to achieve the prime aims will manifest in the listed symptoms the DSM-5 gives in order to achieve the 4 prime aims. Most important aspects are pursuit of fuel and control. He says, why? He says, we were created, this is it, we were created from a genetic predispositioned towards narcissism, allied with a lack of controlled environment. And that's the creation of narcissism. So it's a lack of control. So that it makes, of course, sense that is due to control. So now this, he says all narcs are hypersensitive to the threat of control, must always have control. The hypersensitivity to control, the narcissism arose during our formation when we were children to be that self-defense mechanism, so that it will naturally cause us to behave in a way so that we assert control, gain fuel, obtain character traits, and residual effect benefits. Narcissism is designed to defend us. Stronghold. That's a stronghold. Okay, so, oh my gosh, I forgot to get you guys, I wanted to show you guys what a stronghold is. This is so important, and I hope I have some time left. Hopefully I can get, oh, I'm so long-winded. Okay, so if you knew the Masada was a place that the Romans had conquered. The Romans conquered, and Masada was a part of the area that the Romans had conquered. But because they had a stronghold here, it's like a mountain, it was hard for them to actually conquer this particular space. I'm drawing. So this is Masada. So the Romans conquered space, conquered land, and this is a part of the land. But because these people have built a force field, and that's what it is, in order to protect the about 1,000 people here up on this mountain, it was hard for the Romans to come and defeat a part of land that they actually, that were theirs, because of this force field here, because of this stronghold. Now, what a stronghold is that in Masada here, they had different windy roads. First of all, the elements already was against the Romans, because they had to go upward in order to take, and this is back in, I'm going to put the year. So they didn't have helicopters. They didn't have the different equipment to bring them up. They had to walk up there, and march up there, or whatever they did up there. So they had the natural elements and the dirt. It was a windy road to get up there, number one. So it wasn't just straight up. It was a windy road. The heat as well, depending upon when they decided to go up, if they tried to. They tried a few times. So that was against them. Also with Masada, what also is a stronghold is within it. It had different cisterns that, because of the rain, when it rained, it rained inside of places within the mountaintop, that it kept water there, fresh water. They also had water so that they can, they have vegetation as well. Okay. They also had very thick walls that protected them. So they had all these things that made them self-sufficient, so that they would be protected within this stronghold. So the stronghold is the things that prevents you or me from getting in. That's what a stronghold is. That's why the Lord says, even in the Bible, that he wants us to be his stronghold. Because with the different, the Holy Spirit, prayer, fasting, these are things that are set before us to prevent things from coming in. And it'll keep us safe, our soul safe. So there's different mechanisms, self-defense mechanisms, spiritually, could be good too, to prevent things from that you don't want in. That's what a stronghold. Oh, someone has a strong hold on whatever is inside. Okay. They have a strong hold on them in different ways different mechanisms that they use to keep them strongly inside. And so these are defense mechanisms in a negative way, in the way that he's talking about. These defense mechanisms in a negative way, in the way that he's talking about, are psychological strategies that are unconsciously used to protect a person from anxiety arising from unacceptable thoughts or feelings. Defense mechanisms operate at an unconscious level and help ward off unpleasant feelings. So just like we want to develop defense mechanisms in the spirit, we develop habits that we will begin to unconsciously function and operate in, where it's the back of it's like second nature, praying. Oh, I'm going to pray. I decide to pray in this situation. But and you do it so often, or I get up at 6 o'clock and you just your body remembers to wake up, and it's something that automatically happens unconsciously. Your body's on a timer. So that is very similar to these defense mechanisms. And these are, I'm going to read them off: repressing thoughts and feelings. Denial is a self-defense mechanism. Projection is a self-defense mechanism. Displacement is a self-defense mechanism. Regression is a self-defense mechanism. Let's see. And these are all from simplypsychology.org. I'll put this up as well. HG is speaking here. When a narcissist asserts control, lesser and mid range do not realize that it's happening. They are allowed by the narcissism to think it's something else. Demonic influence. You just spelled it out. Ultra and greater know what they are doing or purpose to assert control. Now this one, Deuteronomy 18:10 through 13, or 10 through 18, witchcraft, sorcery, which is control, deception. Okay. He also mentioned, that's my side note. I'm going to read what he says, and then I'm going to go more into my side note. He says, if what's going on threatens or our control, there is a problem. We will respond to assert that control, to gain fuel, to acquire character traits from you, to get residual benefits from you through the benign or malign manipulation, bribery, flattery, great sex, compliment, supportive false compassions. Behind them are seeking prime aims from you. Deception, sorcery. There you go. So that is witchcraft. To manipulate, to intimidate, in order to control and to dominate. You can spell it out even more clearer than that. Bribery. Persuade is to persuade someone to act in one's favor, typically illegal or dishonestly, by a gift or money or other inducements. So we're going to go over what these mean here. I think I only have a few minutes. Flattery, excessive and insincere praise given especially to further one's own interest. Compliments, great sex, supportive false compassion. These are all root of witchcraft. These are all descriptions of manipulation. This is all deception. I'm going to stop it here because I'm going to have to do a part 3 and I don't want it to abruptly stop. I do enjoy that you guys have come to hear this. Please share it with who you think may need this. This definitely needs to be heard. All right, I will be back with part 3, and that definitely should be the final video regarding what is narcissism, and then my response to HG Tudor is narcissism, demonic possession. You guys be blessed.